Hey, Nickie Brown here. No matter where you are and no matter what part of the world you are in, I hope that you are having a good day. So, life has a tendency to take us on unexpected twists and turns. Um, I had two people here recently who I would consider friends to have health scares, right? Um, One of them had an anxiety attack. Um, which may or may not have been food related. It was kind of taken out of the anxiety category and put in the potential food poisoning category. Um, so I'm not sure about that one, but from what I observed, it definitely seemed like an anxiety attack. But an anxiety attack can increase your blood pressure, and this person's blood pressure went up pretty high. Then I reached out to another friend who hadn't heard from in probably a good 3 years. And even if you don't talk to someone, that doesn't mean that you're no longer friends. You just haven't spoken to them in a while. And so once you reach out, of course, people give you updates as to what's going on. And this person has the C word. I don't want to say the C word. I'm sure you know which C word I'm referring to. And this particular C word, requires some treatment in order to make it go away. Although I've heard from someone who had the big C that a tablespoonful of baking soda in a glass of water, of warm water, on an empty stomach first thing in the morning is something that can help the body become more alkaline, because basically with the big C, the body is in a acidic state. So because the body is in a more acidic state, it needs to be brought back into a more alkaline state. Um, and I have been a patient of naturopathic or holistic medicine since the late 90s. I have done a lot of reading and research. I have some medical books and some like self-help type of books that focus on nutrition. Like, for example, Back to Eden by Mr. Kloss, Kloss. I can't think of his first name right now, but I'm pretty sure that is it Jethro Kloss, I think it is. Back to Eden. And so when you read these types of books, it'll say, okay, what is your situation? Here are some herbs, or here's what you should do, this detox or this cleanse. Of course, there's Queen Afua. Of course, there's Dr. Sebi. There are lots of other practitioners. But my aunt on my father's side was the first person to ever introduce me to naturopathic or holistic medicine. And again, that was in like the late 80s, actually. So like 89, 90. And then I bought the Back to Eden book around 1999, so probably like a 10-year span. So I learned a lot in within those time frames. I learned a lot from my aunt. I learned a lot by doing my own research, and I learned a lot from the practitioners that I visited over the years, who helped me to to be healthier. So no, I am not um, a practitioner myself. I am a certified master life coach. I am a Reiki practitioner. And again, um, I've been a vegetarian since 2001. So I know a lot about naturopathic and holistic medicine, from taking it, from being told what to take, and from doing my own research. Um, so that is what um, qualifies me to talk about this. I have heard more than one person with the C word say that baking soda is a good idea. So I'm not making it up off the top of my head. Like, I know people personally, and I know I've read about the different ways that people have brought themselves back to a healthier state. And that is one of the things that was used. So I'm not making it up off of the top of my head. I'm not trying to play something that I'm not. I am giving the best advice that I know how to help someone who may be in need of the help, who may be ready, willing, and able to try it. Because of course some people will say, oh, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm just going to listen to my doctor. And that is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has a right to their own opinion, and they have a right to choose what they think is best for themselves. And so, that's fine. Again, life is about choices. However, even if you're not willing to try it, if you're not the person who has the issue, at least recommend it just in case that other person wants to try it. I think that it's, we don't do our due diligence if we don't at least share it with someone. I've made recommendations over the years, and of course people don't listen because they feel like, well, who are you? You can't tell me what to do. What are you talking about? I'm just going to listen to the doctor. And then I've had people who listened, and they were better off. So again, there's no hard feelings. I think that some people think that if you don't listen to them, that you're spiting them, so they're gonna, oh, I'm not gonna do it. But a lot of times in those situations, the only person that we're hurting is ourselves. We're not hurting the person who gave us the advice. And again, to each his or her own. You don't have to do anything that anyone, not even your doctor. There are people who don't even listen to their doctors. They still do whatever they want to do. So everyone has a right to do whatever they want to do. But again, it's a very inexpensive suggestion. And if you don't want to use it, but you know someone else who may, just even suggest it. Because again, it has worked for people. And again, for such an inexpensive, like, why not try it? But again, you don't have to if you don't want to. But life is so short, and I know I've told this story before, and as I grow, it just resonates different every time. But one of my very best friends, we were friends for 21 years. He was 42 years old, and he just had a lot of stress going on in his life, and ended up becoming sick, having surgery, not really allowing his body to rest. He was still drinking and hanging out. And after about 6 weeks, he returned to work from his main job because he was also a comedian. So he returned to work, He was sitting at his desk because he was a supervisor, and the next thing you know, the manager said he heard a loud thump. He went to check, and he was on the floor, and that was, that was how his life ended. And very nobody's perfect, right? But he was a very kind-hearted person, a very caring, loving, and giving person. He was the type of person, if you called him at 4 o'clock in the morning and said you had a flat tire, he would get up out his bed if he could and come help you change your tire. He would do anything for his friends and family, the people he loved. And it's very rare that you find genuine people. Like, we were friends for 21 years and never had an argument. Like, his mom would be like, oh, how come y'all seem like y'all would be good for each other, but it just never went there. We just stayed friends over the years. And I loved his mom. His mom loved me. She passed away a couple years after he did, like a year or two. It was like, I don't want to talk about it too much. But again, life brings us unexpected twists and turns, because you don't think of middle-aged as being 21 years old or even 30-something years old. And so it gives you a different perspective on life, or at least it should. Some people it does, and some people it doesn't. And a lot of times, we have a tendency to go on a path that doesn't necessarily serve us in a good way. But we still will continue on that path. And, if people say something about it, then we'll get an attitude, because how dare you, tell me the truth about what I already know and what I maybe need to do or not do. Like, and it's not everybody, but let's just say it could be somebody who drinks, somebody who smokes, somebody who has multiple children out of wedlock, whether it be male or female, somebody who's not married. Whatever the situation is, we'll always have people who are judging us, thinking that you should be doing this by this certain time, especially if it's something that they did. It could be buying a house. I heard someone say within the last couple years, it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 60 years old when you buy your house. Buying a house is still a huge accomplishment. Some people do it when they're teenagers. Some people do it in their 20s, their 30s. But for some people, it doesn't happen until later on in life, right? And I know my great-grandmother, she was in her 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And my grandmother bought a house for her to live in, because that's one of the things she said she wanted to do before she left here, was leave in a house. So my grandmother granted her that wish. Now, when she was younger, I don't know if she lived in a house. I believe that she did, because they're from Albany, Georgia, to the best of my knowledge. And although when you do like the genealogy, sometimes, it's hard to tell whether or not that's your relative or not. There may be some roots on my mother's side in Florida. So that's why I'm saying that. But that I know of, in Albany, Georgia, is mainly houses. So that I know of. She grew up in a house, so she just wanted to return to living in a house. But I know, like, in the 40s, when they moved to New York for work, during the Industrial Revolution, they lived in apartments. They lived in the projects. That is what a lot of people did. They moved north. Some people moved into houses, but some people moved into the projects. And it was all about just getting the money. And I think that during those times in the 1940s, I think that moving to the projects was kind of glorified. I know that it started out with some people, a certain nationality, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not, so I'm just not even gonna say it. But a certain nationality, who they say grew up in the ghetto. They lived in these housing apartments, or they call them tenements. They called them, I forget some of the other names, but they weren't necessarily called apartments, I don't think, at that time. I think they were called like tenements and something else they were called. But anyhow, this is what people went towards. A lot of people migrated north from the south, and they moved into apartment buildings. They moved into smaller homes. They moved into homes that had less land, because that's what people were doing at that time. And I don't even remember why I started talking about that. But again, life has some unexpected twists and turns. And, although people have a timeline, you know, a, the timeline for other people may not work for someone else. We don't have to accomplish certain things by a certain time. Even getting married. I know plenty of people who got married when they were over 50 years old. Not everyone gets married in their teenage years or in their early 20s. And some of those women or men who got married when they were over 50, they never had kids because, some people's morals and values, prevented them from having kids, because it's like, well, if I'm not married, then I'm not supposed to have a child. And, you know, people say that's the right way to do it. Whereas there are people who don't get married, but they're in a committed relationship, and they've been in this same committed relationship for decades, don't plan to not be in this committed relationship, and it still worked, because it's not about the piece of paper necessarily, but it's about the willingness to commit to this other person, commit to this other situation, and keep your word and work things out as you should. Now, although all those situations perfect, absolutely not, because there are some who are toxic, and they argue, but there are some that are healthy. A lot of people have healthy relationships. The healthy relationships usually we don't hear about because they're too busy being healthy and happy and enjoying one another. So they don't want to talk about it because there's nothing to talk about. They're enjoying life and they're enjoying each other. But then, the ones that we usually hear about are the toxic ones. And so that makes people say, oh, well, I don't ever want to be in a relationship, or I don't ever want to get married. So again, everybody's timeline is different because, a lot of times, especially with men, as they get older, they realize, I'm by myself. I might need somebody, a companion. I may need somebody to take care of me, as I age. And so sometimes their minds will change. There are, again, men who didn't marry till they were in their 60s or 70s. Because they wanted to be players and live this sexually free single life. I don't know if I was supposed to say sexually free or not, but it's too late now because I've already said it. But yeah, life has unexpected twists and turns, and so I do my best to love on people and send love to people. And I know that some people think that you're weak, or you're soft, or you're a pushover, and I don't care. Because what happens is when people try to play you because they think that you're weak or a pushover, and then you let them have it, then they'll say, oh, see, I told you that person was crazy, or see, I told you that person wasn't, this, that, and the other, or, whatever it is that they say. But if you don't say anything and you just leave them alone, they're still going to talk. So no matter whether you do or you don't, people are going to talk. People are going to have something to say. So you can't even pay that attention, because again, your timeline is not necessarily someone else's timeline. Just because you had somebody else, maybe they got married in their 20s, bought a home, had kids, They may or may not still be, in a successful marriage. But here you are in your 30s or your 40s, and you've never been married, you've never had kids. Maybe you own a home, maybe you don't. But, you know, you never know when that time will come for you to meet that person, or to have that business, or to have that home, or whatever it is that you desire. So don't compare yourself to other people, because comparison is the thief of all joy, as they say, right? And this is one of the things that causes stress and anxiety, which can then lead to dis-ease. The body is not in a state of ease, so it causes illness, right? And addition to our attitude is our eating habits. Whether or not we drink enough water, whether or not we get enough sunshine, whether or not, um, our hygiene is good. Because believe it or not, having good oral hygiene and good hygiene altogether, because when you come into the house, ideally you should cleanse the world from your body, right? So that you're going to bed clean. And again, um, without the outside germs and exhaust and dirt and dust that, it just flies through the air. Of course, usually you can't see it unless you like roll through a ball of a pile of dust or something like that. But the dust still builds up on your skin, and you can see that when you bathe, and you're like, oh, I just, like for me, from working two jobs, I typically will take 2 showers a day. Once in the morning, because I sweat overnight. Like now that I'm going through the menopause, I do sweat overnight. So I usually take a shower when I get up in the morning to, make sure that I wash up the sweat. Then in between jobs, I'll take another shower because I work manual. What I do is very manual. And so once I get off the one job, I don't want to go to work all sweaty and nasty. So I'll take another shower, put my, my business attire on, and then I go to the second one. And then once I get home, because again, um, I'm just washing off the day before I go to bed. And although these things may seem insignificant, um, they're actually very beneficial to good health. So then, if though that's one thing, and then when you incorporate, maybe somebody who drinks, somebody who smokes, somebody who maybe does other drugs, they're more likely to be in a acidic state. And then in the meantime, constantly trying to achieve certain things, but whatever is making us abuse these substances, and the substance could be food, right? A lot of people overeat. The substance could be sugar. I know that I'm guilty of that. Like sugar is my weakness. And I know that sweets are not good for me. But if you're somebody who doesn't drink, who doesn't smoke, who's not, out in the world being sexually free and just fornicating with whoever, whenever, however, um, you know, usually that person is either addicted to video games, addicted to porn, addicted to food, addicted to drinks. Like it could be sugary drinks or it could be alcoholic beverages. But usually we replace one thing with another thing. And sometimes it could be something healthy, because some people exercise to the extreme. And that's not good either, right? So, depending on the person, although even though it could be a healthy vice, it could still be, people who work out for 2, 3, and 4 hours. Scientific studies have shown after about 45 minutes, you're really not even doing anything. But of course, you can't tell that to a person who has that mindset. So, everybody has to do what makes sense to them. And I just said this to somebody the other day because it was like, go here, go there, do this, do that. And although that may make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to me. And I may adjust. I may, may be willing to compromise and do it your way once or twice just to try it out. But then eventually I'll go back to my way because it's the way that I want to do things. And so everybody does what they think is best for them. What someone thinks is best for them is personal, right? Whether society says is good, bad, or indifferent. And again, we have these different timelines that, society says you're supposed to do this by this age or this time. And so if that's not done, a lot of times people get disappointed in themselves. And again, this can also lead to dis-ease because again, you're not just satisfied and happy with yourself. You're internalizing it, maybe abusing yourself with certain substances and, with a certain mindset. I'm not good enough. I can't have this. I can't do this. I don't have this. I don't have that. Comparing self to other people who may, again, have the house, who may be married. But it's not meant for us to do that. And we have to really start to love ourselves. And I know that a lot of people have a problem with that too. But when you love yourself, you set boundaries, right? You don't deal with non-negotiable behavior. You treat yourself well. You respect yourself and you prioritize other people respecting you as well. And you make the best of life. A lot of times I'm really happy and, people who have more than me, I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're mad because I'm happy? Because they're not happy. They have all these things, these cars, the house, the marriage, the 2.5 kids. They have all the things, yet they're still unhappy because those things, although they have their benefit, they don't necessarily make you happy. You have to be happy within yourself. And the way that you start to be happy with yourself, not when I lose 10 pounds, not if I get a tummy tuck, not if I get a BBL, not if I drink more water. No, loving yourself for who you are, the way that you are right now, the size that you are, the shape that you are, the hair texture that you are, the way that it grows out of your head, without looking in the mirror and saying that you're ugly, right? Or allowing someone else to say that you're ugly. And even if somebody else does say that you're ugly, you don't accept it. You don't receive it because you know that you're gorgeous or you're handsome, right? And so you can't fall for the okie doke, as they say. But you do have to take care of yourself if you want to. Because again, I know some people who say, oh, you got to die something someday. And, they just continue to do the things that they do. Unless and until they get a scare. And then, maybe they'll reconsider. But sometimes they don't. And again, to each his or her own. We can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. And I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was helpful. And as always, I love y'all and I appreciate you for watching. Later.